Hello Podmates! I'm Howie Severino and welcome to our new podcast series. Mga kwento ng kasaysayan na may koneksyon pa rin sa kasalukuyan. Enjoy listening!
Ang Mambo Magsaysay. Nagsimula ng trend na hanggang ngayon ginagamit pa rin sa mga eleksyon. Ang walang kamatayang campaign jingle.
Mambo, mambo, magsaysay. Mambo, 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 our democracy will die kung walang magsaysay.
Pero sino nga ba ang tinutukoy ng kanta? At ano nga ba ang kalagayan ng bansa noong dekada 50? Dalawang propesor ang nakausap ko. Una muna ang historian na si Xiao Chua. Welcome to part 2 of our episode on Mambo Magsaysay.
I guess yung isang gusto naming talakayin sa Magsaysay episode, yung ano ba yung mood ng bansa ng mga panahon na yon, no? So this is just a few years after the war. We were among the most devastated countries in the world after World War II, but at the same time there was a very buoyant, upbeat mood, no? Symbolized by Magsaysay, who was the youngest presidential candidate, I believe, no? He became president at 46, no? So siguro sila Quezon were a bit younger, no? I think he was the first presidential candidate who was not born during the Spanish colonial era.
Right.
He was the first presidential candidate born in the 20th century. Marami din first itong si Magsaysay, no? But before I ask you any specific question, ano bang take mo kay Ramon Magsaysay?
Well, una sa lahat, kung meron akong gustong gawan ng pelikula, I would focus on 1953 sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. Crossroad yan, ano? Una sa lahat, Ramon Magsaysay for me was a very honest man, a very competent, honest president who really loved his people. But there is an underlying context, no? He was used by the Americans and he used the Americans, okay? So, of course, 1953, ano ba yan? This was the time of the neo-colonial period, which is after the war, di ba ang nangyari, the Americans stayed here in a way, not as a colonizer, but as a neo-colonialist, no? Influencing our politics, influencing our economy, influencing our culture. So, yan yung context niyan. Now, elections before were held very formally. No? Bakit formal? Kasi edukado lang yung nagbumoboto. So, ano yung ibig sabihin nun? Very cerebral lang mga eleksyon. Manuel Quezon, for example, did not go out too much because elections can be done through radio. So, through radio and through political wards. Yung mga political na mga representative mo, sila yung nagre-represent sa'yo. Okay, we all know what happened to Magsaysay. Magsaysay was a guerrilla leader in Zambales. He became congressman, and from being congressman, he was also military governor, and then he became congressman. Quirino plucked him out to become Secretary of National Defense. Very young. Yan siya si Magsaysay. And what happened was, Magsaysay was already becoming popular among the people because of his campaign against the hooks, which of course the Americans favored because they were anti-communism Cold War context at that time. So, eto na ngayon. Quirino and Magsaysay became so close. In fact, kapag may sakit si President Quirino, look at this, this is very odd, no? Pag may sakit si President Quirino, natutulog si Magsaysay sa Malacanang to help take care of President Quirino. Yan ang sinasabi sa akin ng mga apo ni Quirino. So, ganun sila ka-close. But what happened was, itong Dindo Gonzales na kapatid ni Chito Gonzales na asawa ng First Lady, apparently, he was already talking with the Americans. And because the Americans, the CIA, did not like Quirino, they wanted to make Ramon Magsaysay the poster boy against Quirino. Kahit na cabinet member niya si Magsaysay. So, ang nangyari doon, they started talking to Magsaysay, convincing him. I think they went abroad, they talked there, and Magsaysay was convinced na it's probably a patriotic duty to basically kill his mentor. 'Di ba? Kill his political father, shall we say. And so Magsaysay agreed. And that was a parang big betrayal to Quirino. Quirino felt so betrayed by it, no? Kasi ang biglang makakalaban niya, and basically sa Nationalista Party ay yung ano niya, gabinete. Kasi Magsaysay shifted to the Nationalista Party, and of course there were stalwarts like Claro Recto. Sila yung puporma nun Claro Recto, sina Jose P. Laurel. Pero it's the old man Jose P. Laurel who said, si Monching ang tatakbo. Si Monching ang tatakbo. So siya yung pinanalo sa convention.
Noong 1953, nagkaroon ng presidential election. Naglaban ang dating magkaalyadong Ramon Magsaysay at nooy re-electionist na si Pangulong Elpidio Quirino. Bago mag-eleksyon, si Magsaysay ang Secretary of National Defense ni Pangulong Quirino.
Basically, if you're going to look at it, Elpidio Quirino, sickly guy, always in the hospital, his campaign was limited kasi nga he was already quite sick. Diba? So up for re-election siya. Ramon Magsaysay, very young, very energetic, and he was backed by the CIA. Meron siyang tao doon na so with the help of Edward Lansdale and Dindo Gonzales, who is one of the PR pioneers in the Philippines, Ramon Magsaysay became the first PR president. Basically, siya yung isa sa mga talagang yung organized public relations. Magsaysay was the first president. So, how do you do that? Hindi ka na sa radyo lang tulad ni Quirino, ni Quezon na magsasalita. You will go out, shake the hands of people, diba? Go to buses and shake the hands of the people there. You will go with large rallies and all of that, and then you will have a jingle. Which, Saiwar operations of Edward Lansdale sa CIA suggested that there should be a jingle, a dance song for Magsaysay, which of course was the first political jingle in the Philippines, Mambo Magsaysay. So that's how Magsaysay and his people changed the way elections happen in the Philippines to become more American in a way. More entertainment, more populist, rather than cerebral before the advent of PR.
Mambo, mambo, Magsaysay. Mambo, 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 our democracy will die. Kung wala si Magsaysay.
Magsaysay daw mismo, the Secretary of National Defense, went to Manglapus's house and to recruit him to be the president of the Ramon Magsaysay for President movement. Ang sabi sa akin ni Francis Manglapus, when Magsaysay went there, gawa na yung Mambo Magsaysay, no? Kasi itong si Raul Manglapus was a kind of musical genius, no? So I don't think Edward Lansdale, for all of his genius, no, cannot take credit for at least that part of the propaganda ni Magsaysay, yung Mambo Magsaysay na campaign jingle, kasi nga bago pa sumali si Manglapus sa kampanya ay gawa na raw yon. At naisip na ni Manglapus, no?
That's a good point, ano? Maganda kasi, of course, we historians were just working on what we have, and all the literature always, what we call this, always credits Lansdale. Kung may ganyang kwento, that would also be an addition to the, kumbaga, the puzzle na Manglapus in his own volition actually wrote Mambo Magsaysay. But remember that si Manglapus was a young Turk. Sabi mo nga, noong panahon na yun, in his 30s, they have new ideas, which probably also inspired by what's happening in America. No? Kasi tandaan natin na although Edward Lansdale may not have had the idea, isa siguro sa package siya yun na dapat may music, because when Mambo Magsaysay was first heard by the oldies, they were so horrified. They did not like it. No, because parang this is a travesty. You have parang for them yung having a song under your name and it's a mambo dance, which is like, it's like, if you're going to put it today, parang yung mga kandidato ngayon na naga-Andrew E. Rap, di ba, or all of that, it's like the oldies would not like that. Parang it's not part of it, di ba? O kaya may mga commercial na nasa tunog ng bini, di ba? Mga ganon, no? But it's like the reaction of the oldies.
Everywhere that you would look was a dandy or a crook. Peace and order was a joke till magsaysay pumasok.
Para sa political scientist at Ateneo professor na si Arjan Aguirre, ang Mambo Magsaysay tumatak sa masa.
So kung makikita nyo na napaka-advanced din ang kanyang kampanya o yung pamamaraan ng pangangampanya that time kasi yung paggamit ng jingle, kung makikita nyo nakakonekta ito dun sa yung paggamit ng technology na available that time. Remember, that time, konti pa lang ang mga tao na gumagamit ng television. Karamihan sa mga tao ay gumagamit ng technology na yung radyo, okay? Broadcast media. So, yung paggamit ng jingle, ang naging dito, highlight dito yung paggamit ng nakakaakit na tono, yung beat, tapos yung mga yung lyrics na ginamit nila. Kung makita mo, pinaghalong English at Tagalog. Tapos yung content ng jingle, may patama dun sa nakaupong administrasyon. Tapos meron din siyang lalim o meron din siyang hugot bilang panawagan sa ating mga kababayan na si Magsaysay ang sagot natin sa ating pagsusulong ng demokratikong pamamaraan ng pang-unlad.
Yeah, kasi mapapansin din na itong campaign jingle, no, itong Mambo Magsaysay, Taglish.
Yes.
Oo, nakausap ko nga yung anak ni Raul Manglapos, yung composer. Sabi ng anak niya, si Francis Manglapos, hindi nga ginamit ng ama niya yung tunay niyang pangalan kasi maaring nakakahiya sa mga Amerikanong Heswitang nag-educate sa kanya, no, sa Ateneo dahil parang bastardized yung na wika na ginamit doon sa lyrics. Kung maalala mo, yung paulit-ulit, yung kasama sa refrain, no, yung our democracy will die kung wala si Magsaysay, no? Na napaka-catchy, no? 'Di ba? I mean, how much catchier can you get, 'di ba? At the same time, yun nga, no, yung pagka-Taglish sa kanya, it could be something composed today.
Mm-hmm.
'Di ba? At siguro at that time, this could have been seen as ahead of its time.
First they voted in Lanao at pati aswang palaw. Ang eleksyon lutong Macau till magsaysay show them how.
When Elpidio Quirino was re-elected, di ba merong issue of, widespread election, fraud or cheating na nangyari. Na kung saan, sinasabi nila na naging diktador si Elpidio Quirino that time na marami siyang mga nagawa na mga bagay na tumatak sa isip ng mga tao na parang against sa kanilang freedom, against sa kanilang karapatan. So, ito yung naging Achilles heel ng Quirino administration. They really had a hard time, mounting, sabihin natin counter parang campaign doon sa popularity na nakita natin sa kampanya ni Magsaysay that time na pinoportray or dinidepict si Ramon Magsaysay as an outsider, di ba? Outsider, yun yung parang ina-highlight sa kanya na siya, galing sa mahirap tapos hindi talaga politiko. Pero again, siya congressman na di ba? Naging governor din siya ng Zambales. Pero yung sinasabi kasing outsider, siya yung una sa pamilyang Magsaysay na nagsilbi sa gobyerno at effective siyang public official.
Gusto ko lang balikan sandali yung mga nabanggit mo tungo kay dating Pangulong Elpidio Quirino, no, na yung 1949 election yata was considered fraudulent. Ang daming supposed dayaan noon, no, lalo na in fact sabi mo nga binanggit nga doon sa Mambo Magsaysay lyrics, no, may reference doon sa pati
aswang bumoto,
pati aswang yata bumoto, etc., no, birds they voted in Lanao. Anyway, in the course of Philippine election history, was that like the first election na may ganong klaseng allegations of widespread fraud? I mean, in recent history, madalas nating marinig yan, but back then, was that election when Quirino won, was it considered like, wow, this is a major bombshell? Talagang ngayon lang nangyari to sa Philippine election history.
Actually, sasabi nga natin, perhaps one of the first, kasi kung titingnan natin, sitting president tapos trying to get re-elected. And kung babalikan din natin yung history, 'di ba? Yung NAMFREL na alam natin ngayon, yung National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, yung kanyang predecessor nanggaling din nung time na yon. Natayo yung unang NAMFREL nung time na yon na yun nga yung election na kung saan ay tumakbo si Elpidio Quirino for his re-election. Ang issue kasi noon malawakang use of electoral violence. So may mga intimidation, may mga harassment, may mga nanakaw din ng mga balota. Tapos kung makikita nyo, ito rin yung time na kung saan yung ating media ay unti-unti na nagiging malakas. Kasi may mga report hindi lang sa urban areas, pati sa rural areas. Kaya parang yung news coverage naging crucial din ng time na yun kasi yung ating institutions, democratic institutions, unti-unti na rin gumagalaw autonomous or independent na, Pilipino na talaga yung involved. So ito yung naging Achilles heel nga ni Elpidio Quirino that hunted him. I mean for years na kung saan ang naging pattern niya ay parang every time na may gagawin siya, laging merong threat or use of force or kaya merong coercion na parang nakaakibat dito. So yun yung parang tumatak din sa utak ng mga tao. That's why again he was forced to appoint Ramon Magsaysay kasi siya pang-balance ba? Kasi galing din si Ramon Magsaysay sa kabilang partido. So, he needed someone I mean, na mapagkakatiwalaan ng tao kasi nag-deteriorate yung trust or yung parang approval siguro rating na meron ng ating military institution that time. Bumaba ang tiwala ng mga tao sa gobyerno. So, yun yung parang ginalawan ni Ramon Magsaysay as he parang tries to navigate yung mismo intricacies ng institutions of power ng ating Philippine government that time.
Tell us about the atmosphere of Philippine society back then. So it's post-war, we were one of the most destroyed countries in the world, particularly Manila. This is less than 10 years later. At the same time, ang mabilis yung economic growth ng Pilipinas. So parang in a way bumabangon na rin tayo, no? And the 1950s in general, at least in the United States, it's seen as a kind of happy-go-lucky, kind of a James Dean, Marlon Brando decade, di ba? Sa atin naman, umuusbong na rin yung mga pelikula. But anong take mo doon sa 1950s Philippines and how could it have bred or produced a president like Ramon Magsaysay?
Gusto kong ipunto dito na ang ating mga kababayan that time ay sabihin na nating unti-unti bumabangon, pero again, the problem with development is that its effects, di ba? They are not that felt easily by the people, especially in a post World War situation. 1950s, if you remember, land reform was the issue that time. Many of the Filipinos who fought, during the Second World War, meron pa rin silang issue with the Philippine government that time on how, to make use of this mga dating hacienda na nung panahon ng mga Kastila, tas di ba panahon ng mga Amerikano. Marami sa ating mga kababayan ay patuloy pa rin lumalaban sa ating gobyerno. And again, looking back dun sa naging work ni Ramon Magsaysay that time, he was able to deliver. When I say he was able to deliver as Secretary of National Defense, gumamit sila ng psychological warfare, di ba? Na kung saan para mahikayat yung mga tao na magbalik loob, nagbigay sila ng livelihood, tinutukan nila yung mga rural areas na kung saan din nga may development projects. Pinaramdam ng gobyerno that time na hindi kayo naiwan.
Man of the masses ang naging bansag kay Ramon Magsaysay. At ang mga ginamit niya sa kampanya makikita pa sa Ramon Magsaysay Center sa Maynila.
Nandito tayo ngayon sa Magsaysay Center. Kasama po si Marie Perez, Chief Librarian and Archivist ng Magsaysay Laureate Library and Museum.
Yes.
No? So, hindi lang tungo kay Magsaysay yung nandito,
Yes,
yung mga Magsaysay awardees.
Yes,
no?
po.
Pero of course, maraming material dito tungkol kay Ramon
President.
Magsaysay,
Yes, po.
President Magsaysay. So, nandito sa harapan natin ay yung mga tungkol sa kanyang kampanya.
Campaign. Yes po.
Makikita natin na talagang sari-sari yung kanyang mga campaign materials, no, na maaring sa kasulukuyang mga kampanya, no, hindi na makikita. Tulad
Yes,
nitong lighter, no?
Yes.
Mga phosphor. Siguro mga panahon na yun, ang dami pa siguro nagsisigarilyo. Di tulad ngayon, may mga anti-smoking campaign na. Talagang pinamimigay lang ito.
Yes po, pinamimigay po. Like itong mga posporo kasi po, no. President Magsaysay is more on working with masses kasi talaga. So, farmers, workers, so kasama po to doon sa binibigay during campaign. Ito naman po ay yung case po nung
May
itong
case pa ng lighter.
Lighter,
Oo.
then may kasama din po siyang posporo.
And then, itong Quiapo, Magsaysay is my guy.
Opo.
Paano yan?
So,
Saan
ito
nakalagay?
po ay nilalagay sa harap ng jeepney. So, makikita pa rin natin to hanggang ngayon, yung mga labels ng
Pretil is in
Apo.
Tondo.
Yes
no?
po.
And of course,
Tondo.
Quiapo. So, nilalagay yan sa...
Harap.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Kasi parang di na yata ginagawa yan ngayon. Ano? I mean, mga kandidato, hindi na wala akong nakikitang ganito.
Yes po,
ngayon.
wala na po. Ang normally po, ito na lang yung mga areas po ng transportation.
Interesting. Kasi siguro noon ay, siguro wala pa masyadong may television. In fact, 1953 ang campaign,
Yeah po.
no? Baka wala pang television noon.
Wala po mga
Oo,
radyo.
Yeah, oo, puro radyo. So, pero ang karamihan sumasakay ng jeep.
Yes
So,
po.
this is
These
really a
are,
way of...
mode of transportation.
So, this is a form of mass communication.
Yes po.
Okay.
Nandito rin ang isang tali ng resulta ng eleksyon ng 1953.
Ito po yung actual result nung election nung naglaban si Elpidio Quirino and Ramon Magsaysay.
Bakit Leyte province?
Ito po yung voting population na malaki yung lamang ni ni President Magsaysay kay Quirino. So about parang 86%.
Halos dinoble niya yung boto ni Quirino, no?
Opo.
So halos 3 million si Magsaysay, wala pang 1.5 million. Kukunti lang pala yung botante noon.
Opo, siguro po wala pang registrants masyado.
Ngayon, Maynila pa lang yan.
Sa kasikatan ni Ramon Magsaysay noong panahong yon, landslide ang pagkapanalo niya sa 1953 presidential elections. Pero ano ba talaga ang naging papel ng mga Amerikano sa kanyang pagkapanalo? Tinanong ko si Professor Xiao Chua.
Ang tanong dyan is, gaano kalaking impact ba talaga yung mga Amerikano rito? Sabi mo nga, naggamitan sila. I mean, Magsaysay won by a landslide, no, in 1953. Would he have won by a landslide even without the Americans?
My personal analysis would be this. As we all know, with a lot of competent people in the Philippines, we all know a lot of competent people, but they cannot win. They don't win. I mean, yun yung problem dyan. So, ang tingin ko lang dito, I would have said na, yeah, exaggeration naman yun that the CIA created Magsaysay. I never said that in my previous lectures. But, he wouldn't have made it to the top without a little push. So ako, yung CIA for me, was the little push that he needed to have at least in the short time possible, because they decided a few months before the filing of the certificate of candidacies na to at least have a little more leverage against Quirino, who was, despite the fact that he was sickly, was actually favored by a lot of the political families at that time. Diba? So he needed that little push. And of course, at that time, the Filipinos were still very pro-American. And we did not really, despite the fact of we have a neo-colonial country at that time, the people really supported a lot of people really supported the Americans. They felt good that the Americans were actually here. So, I think that also added to yung mga factors na yun, aside from the fact that Magsaysay was a product that was so easy to sell. If you are a PR person, it's not very hard to sell Ramon Magsaysay. He was very genuine, napaka-totoong tao, 'di ba? Napaka-makamasa talaga. And of course, eventually when he became president, despite the fact that he lacked credentials in economics, and he was not really a long-term planning president, shall we say, he was able to provide the basic goods of the people, which is basically how that's his trust talaga was to really bring the government to the people, opening up Malacanang, di ba?
Kinuwento sa akin ni Arjan Aguirre ang dahilan kung bakit tinawag si Magsaysay na man of the masses.
When we talk about, when we say Ramon Magsaysay, the first thing that comes to mind ay ano siya masa, okay? Makamasa, presidente ng ordinaryong tao. He is known for being an ordinary looking, politician compared to, the politicians of that era. Kung papansin niyo, iba rin yung kanyang apelyido, di ba? Magsaysay. Halos lahat ng surname puro Castilla or merong parang Spanish sounding name. Number 2, yung kanyang image ay he delivers. So yung kanyang short stint as House of Representatives member, tapos naging rin siya Secretary of National Defense. Makita nyo na punong-puno ito ng accomplishments. That's why when he ran for the presidency, makita mo na napalapit siya sa mga tao.
Bahagi ito ng talumpati ni Ramon Magsaysay.
Kamatay ng maliit ninyong lingkod at alipin na si Magsaysay! Hindi baling mamatay ako dito sa panahon na ito! Mapakita ko lamang sa inyo! Maipakita ko lamang sa inyo na kayo'y mahal sa amin sapagkat kaming lahat ay inyo. Kami ay nagsusweldo dito dahil sa kami ay alipin ninyo, hindi upang magpasarap at magpayaman sa gobyernong ito. Araw at gabi ay ang mga naghihirap na mga taong walang trabaho, mga taong nagugutom. Bayan, mamamatay ka sapagkat ganyan ang nangyayari sa akin, sapagkat ang pagmamahal ko sa bayan at pagmamahal ko sa inyo, gaya ng pagmamahal ko rin sa sarili kong pamilya at sarili kong mga anak. I am proud of my race, that I am proud of my generation, that I am proud of the nation we created in so short a time and in the face of such tremendous odds.
So, kung titingnan mo yung kanyang mga speeches ngayon sa YouTube, kung ma-access na ating mga kababayan, Pilipinong-Pilipino yung dating. So, kung makikita niyo yung mga speeches niya, sorry, sinasabi ko ito dahil galing ako sa Zambales. Yung family ko ay from Zambales. So, talagang napagkukwentuhan ito ng mga taga Zambales at alam na alam ko rin yung storya ni Ramon Magsaysay. Pag sinabi niya sing honesty, he is the kind of person na who is willing to admit kung nagkakamali siya. Parang hindi siya takot na i-admit yung pagkakamali niya. Tapos, sa kanyang mga speeches, mapapansin mo na totoong-totoo yung kanyang sinasabi. Walang fanfare, walang paggamit ng mga highfalutin words. Tapos, in Filipino. Matatas din siya magtagalog. Yun yung magandang quality. Nakikita mo yung kanyang integrity bilang politician kasi nagsasabi siya ng totoo sa kanyang mga speeches. Yun din yung naging way niya to connect to the ordinary Filipinos that time. Yung mga naging hope, mga naging rebelde eventually, madali siya nakakonect kasi ito yung mga kinausap niya before. Pati nung gera, madali siya nakakonect sa mga tao, madali siya naka-organize ng guerrilla units. Imagine kapitan siya nun. Madali siya naka-organize ng mga tao kasi he's really true to his work, to himself. Walang pagbabalat kayo, walang pagkukunwari. That's why marami pa rin na-inspire hanggang ngayon.
Pero ang binansagang People's President hindi nakatapos ng kanyang iisang termino bilang Pangulo. Noong 1957, sa edad na 49 years old lamang, isang trahedya ang nangyari. Pinakita sa akin ni Marie Perez, Chief Archivist ng Ramon Magsaysay Center, ang mga ginamit ni Magsaysay sa huling araw ng kanyang buhay.
Siyempre, tragedy, no?
Yes,
ang katapusan ng kanyang presidency, hindi nga niya natapos.
Yes,
nagkakampanya pa lang siya para magkaroon ng second term.
Yes.
No? So, ano nangyari?
Bale, ano siya, no, March 16, lumipad po sila pa Visayas kasi meron siyang speaking engagement for series of parang sa schools, 3 universities in Visayas, then to attend a conference ng USAFE. So, after po nung mga engagement na yon, they fly out 1 o'clock ng morning. Then a few minutes
From where to where?
From, I think...
Cebu yata yun, di ba?
Yes po, Cebu to Manila po.
Pauwi na.
Opo. Then nagkaroon po ng problem yung airplane. So, based from investigation po, yun nga po, nasira po yung carburetor ng plane.
Yan mismo yun?
Yes po, yung partner,
Oh, wow.
yung part ng plane, causing yung power outage. Kaya po nag-crash siya doon sa slope ng Mount Manunggal in Cebu.
And this is part of the plane?
Part of the plane po.
Oh, kasi ito talaga yung original, no?
Yes po.
So, ito yung plane na anong klaseng eroplano? Of course, that's his private plane, no?
Yes po, Douglas C-47 po.
So, ito yung bumagsak, no? So, lahat ng nandun namatay except for one person.
Yes po,
pati yung piloto.
Yes po, 26, isa lang po nabuhay si Mr. Nestor Mata.
I see. And then, ito mismo yung kanyang sapatos nung namatay siya.
Ito po yung isang pares ng sapatos na nakuha siya medyo malayo doon sa pinagbagsakan mismo ng eroplano, kaya hindi kasamang nasunog. So, yung lahat po ng namatay, sunog lahat sila unidentifiable. So, because of the Rolex watch po na na-identify ng relative, nalaman po nila na body ni President Magsaysay yung nakuha.
Ang lungkot, no? So, marami pala silang nandoon, ano? At ito na lang talaga, itong dalawa, yung natira na doon sa kanyang katawan mismo. Everything else, nasunog na.
46 years old siya nung naging presidente. 49 years old lamang si Ramon Magsaysay nung namatay.
Ngayon, gusto kong itanong lang, dahil nga sa hanggang ngayon, no, maraming humahanga sa kanya, taas pa rin ang respeto ng mundo sa kanya. Pero nakilala din siya noon bilang, yun nga, malapit na kaalyado ng CIA, supposedly, US government, at ginamit daw siya ng US government, no? At yung agent ng CIA na si Edward Lansdale, ano? Obviously, wala dito naka-display tungkol sa ganung aspeto ng kanyang buhay, no? But what can you say about that when people bring it up? Marami nagre-research dito, nagtatanong, ano bang connection niya talaga sa CIA? Anong connection niya kay Edward Lansdale?
Bali po si Sir Edward Lansdale po kasi naka-work talaga ni President Magsaysay nung time pa ng Secretary of National Defense siya. So sa parang strategy nila, paano ba pahihinain yung pwersa ng mga Huk. So
Hukbalahap, yung communist rebels sila noon,
no? Na naging eventually nung term niya nang naging presidente siya is tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung paglaban sa gobyerno. So nung naging presidente na po siya, nagbibigay din po ng advice si Edward Lansdale, na nagkataon naman officer talaga siya ng CIA. But, siyempre, yung mga advices naman nun is meron din specific management style and team si President Magsaysay. So, siguro nakikinig siya, pero hindi naman directly na si President ay working with CIA.
Kumbaga advisor, no?
Yes, advisor lang.
And at this time, talagang close ally ang Pilipinas saka ang Amerika. Former American colony naman tayo at nung naging independent tayo, hindi naman talaga tayo naging kalaban.
Opo.
No, magkaibigan pa rin yung dalawang bansa. At siguro yung pinaka-representative ng US interest sa atin, bukod doon sa embassy, may talagang tao sila na military specialist, no? Si Lansdale. So, tingin mo, anong relevance ni Magsaysay para sa ating panahon?
Ngayon po kasi binabalik-balikan natin, no, parang bihira ang politiko na kasi na honest. Siguro yung honesty, integrity, saka yung pamumuhay ng simple and matipid. Kasi si President Magsaysay, so sobrang simple nga ng buhay niya. Nung namatay siya, 2,000 pesos lang yung naiwan niya sa family niya na hindi naman enough din para bumili ng bahay. Kaya yung bahay nila sa Mandaluyong, contribution ng tao pa yun para magkaroon sila ng sarili nilang bahay. So siguro yun po yung maging inspirasyon din sa mga bagong siguro yung mga magiging tatakbo na eleksyon. And also mga estudyante na simpleng buhay, kung kailangan talagang mag-serve is para sa mga Pilipino talaga, para sa bansa natin.
Hindi man natapos ni Ramon Magsaysay ang kanyang termino, malaki ang naiwan niyang bakas. Hindi lang sa mga tao noon, kundi pati sa politika ng bansa hanggang ngayon.
Nararamdaman ba natin ngayon ang legacy ni Pangulong Ramon Magsaysay?
Pag sinabi kasi makataong pamumuno, inuuna mo yung kapakanan ng nakararami at sa pagkakaalam ko ito yung parang naging core ng Magsaysay political brand. Will this really affect or will this really benefit not just the few, but many, di ba?
Ayon naman kay Xiao Chua, kung sakaling hindi namatay si Magsaysay noong 1957, ano kaya ang magiging itsura ng Pilipinas ngayon?
Magsaysay lived up to his branding up to the very end. And that's why, even if he was dead, he was still used by a lot of people, including the Americans, in promoting pro-American democracy around Southeast Asia. That's why, initially, the Ramon Magsaysay Award was actually a pro-American enterprise. It was actually funded before by the Rockefeller Foundation. Of course, it just turned more into a more independent in the past few years, more independent award-giving body. Gusto kong i-clarify din na remember that we are at that time in the context of the Cold War. Today, on hindsight, and many of the critics even before lament about our politicians at that time being pro-American. Ako, I am probably much kinder. No? Bakit? Because in the Cold War context, remember, in a geopolitical reality, the real politics of geopolitics, you have to choose at that time. Kanino ka ba? Diba? Of course, Magsaysay actually was one of the founders of the Third World. He wanted to actually convene the countries which are non-allied to the First World, which are the Americans, and the Soviets, which is the Second World. So he wanted to create the Third World. So when he became president, he actually did that. Pero kumbaga, kailangan nating maintindihan at that time, I mean, if you're tossed between the devil and the deep blue sea, you actually choose the devil that you know than the devil that you do not know. So that's why a lot of our politicians, even the credible ones like Carlos P. Romulo, they were actually pro-American. No? And yun yung makikita natin. And Magsaysay actually rode on that kind of popularity.
Kung sakaling hindi namatay si Magsaysay noong 1957, ano kaya ang naging kalagayan ng bansa ngayon? Tingin ni Arjan Aguirre.
Ako sa tingin ko, Sir Howie, kung hindi siya namatay siguro, maganda na nakita natin yung mismong katunayan that, a principled political rule is really possible. Maganda siguro na prove na yung good governance is really, real sa ating panahon. Maganda siguro na nakita na posible pala na magkaroon ng presidente na mahal talaga ng tao. Pero I think the reason why na nangyari din yun ay manatili siya inspiration. Kasi naniniwala pa rin ako sa Howie na nag-inspire pa rin siya ng mga tao. At sa libo-libong mga public officials natin ngayon, I am sure, meron dyan na honest pa rin. Meron dyan na parang tinatry pa rin nila yung best na makitungo sa ating mga tao. So sa tingin ko hindi siya failure eh. Mas na-magnify pa nga ito na namatay siya kasi I'm sure may mga tao na realize na posible pala pero naputol. So I'm sure yung mga politiko that time, example na lang nabanggit mo si Senator Ninoy, nakatrabaho niya yun eh. So Senator Ninoy, I'm sure meron siya natutunan dun sa, alam mo yun, yung pagiging politician ni Ramon Magsaysay na totoo, makatao, at yun din yung naging nagamit niya later on dun sa panahon na kung saan tinawag siya ng sitwasyon na ano ba, will you go, the easy way, maging popular, maging powerful lang, or will you take this, yun nga yung hard way na kung saan maraming makikinabang. So I think yun yung parang magandang tingnan dito sa naging legacy ni Ramon Magsaysay na kung saan pinatunayan niya sa atin na kayang maging maayos ng ating politika kung isasang-alang-alang mo or bibigyan mo lamang ng emphasis yung mga tao. At number two, Maganda na ma-realize din ng mga tao na ang politika ay totoo. Ibig sabihin, there's nothing wrong with being, truthful with what we do in politics. Lasting ang kanyang effect. Hindi siya ephemeral or short-lived. Marami pa rin ngayon ang nag-idealize dun sa mga naging accomplishment nila Ramon Magsaysay, nila Ninoy Aquino, nila Jose Rizal. So, ano siya Sir Howie, bawat henerasyon mayroong mga Ramon Magsaysay, may mga Jose Rizal, may mga Ninoy Aquino May mga Jesse Robredo. So, iniiwan nila tayo, pero I'm sure meron silang naiiwan din na mga lessons na dapat nating huwag kalimutan.
Okay, it's a nice note to end on. Maraming salamat, Professor Arjan Aguirre. Thank you so much for all the insights and wisdom. Salamat.
Salamat din po, Sir Howie.
This episode was produced by the team of Yumar Yanga and Aubrey de los Reyes. Supervised by Criselda Caringal, Arla Fabella, and Bernice Sibukaw. Our camera crew is from the team of Ben-Hur Mujado. This was edited by J.R. Magtoto and hosted by me, Howie Severino.
Thank you, Podmates, for listening and watching until the very end of this podcast. Alam niyo na, nakakatalino ang mahabang attention span. Don't forget to like and subscribe and binge watch our past episodes too. Until the next pod, mabuhay kayo at ingat lagi.